This is the Bulkraal podcast with Simon Riekert, only on Megafoon Rugby.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us again on the other side of 2024. It's 2025, and a happy new year to you, and compliments of the season. May it be a better year for you and for the Bulls here at the Bulkraal. My name is Simon Riekert for the Bulkraal, and thank you for joining us. Let's make this a great year. Well, fresh from the press conference earlier this morning, where Jake White announced the team against Stade Francais at Loftus. I can confirm that the team, and I'm going to quickly run through the team because we haven't formally received the team as such, so I'm just going to run through it. Up from 1 up to 15, and then also the impact squad. Gerard Steenekamp, Johan Grobelaar, Wilco Louw, Ruan Vermaak, and Ruan Nortjé as captain. He's back with Marcel Coetzee and Elrich Louw with Cameron Hanekom as the loose trio. Embrose Papier and Johan Goosen will team up. So will Sergil Peterson, Harold Foster, Stedman Gans, Sebastian de Klerk, and Devin Williams form the rest of the backline. The impact squad, as I said, Akker van der Merwe, Zakweni, Francois Klopper, Reinhard Ludwig, Nizam Kar, Zak Burger, Uta Chamberlain, and Kanan Moody. Quite a phenomenal team, if you ask me. But the interesting facts and the interesting discussions that we had the last few days, and you must have picked it up in the general media, that the discussion is actually going on about what's going on with the Bulls. Sort of a conundrum. What is going on at the Bulls? What's going on at Kirkness Street? Now, Jake White was at pains to explain that and to confirm that the Bulls are where they don't want to be at this stage of the competition, the Champions Cup. I'm talking about the Champions Cup. And he continuously referred us back to the URC and the momentum that they've gathered for the URC, being the best placed South African team at this stage. Now, one of two facts that I really picked up was that Ruan Nortjé obviously is back and Willie is on leave with David Kriel injured. So even with playing Stade Francais and talking through Jake, getting the most points that they have, and I'll tell you about probably the idea that they have with the game plan on Saturday, that's tomorrow. This is the problem that generally presented itself through the season with the senior players not always being available and not continuously being available. Like I said, Jake made mention of the momentum for a good result this week. They want to put up 22 points on Stade Francais and then use that as momentum for the URC. Then what happened is we asked him specifically about the availability of players, and then also we asked them, being Jake, ask him about, isn't it a sort of a detrimental position in where the Bulls are at the moment, that out of the Champions Cup, unless there's some kind of a miracle that takes place, and we know that's not going to happen. It's a sort of a foregone conclusion that the Bulls are out for this year, that they now have set their sights on the Challenge Cup and focusing on the URC as it is. Now, Jake also was at pains to say and to convey the message that derbies are coming up and supporters should please come to Loftus and come and watch the derbies, the local derbies. And that's where apparently the most points are being made. And that's where he wants a leader like Ruan Nortjé to come to the fore as a good leader, accurate, switched on. He made mention of the fact that Ruan has his own computer, his own analysis, and Jake also made mention of Johnny Sexton's book and how things have changed in the modern game. Now, it seems to me that there's some pace on the development of rugby going on, not only in South Africa, but worldwide, and the Bulls obviously being the preferred franchise in South Africa as far as the URC standings at the moment are, and obviously with looking 2020 hindsight, the team that was the most successful last year as well, the local team that was most successful. And Jake used the Sharks as an example, being a team that didn't make it the year before in the Champions Cup, and now they were celebrated as the Challenge Cup champions, and there was nothing wrong with celebrating them there. Now, to me, it just feels like it's a sort of a capitulation, and I'm probably oversensitive, but let me put it out here, and it's good to put it out here and good for debate. Isn't it a sort of a capitulation and a sort of putting a Band-Aid on what all the wrongs that were happening at the Bulls in the Champions Cup, and now only settling for the Challenge Cup as a sort of a, okay, but don't go anywhere, we're going to go for the Challenge Cup and please come and watch us. Jake had a lot to say about the losing streaks. People want to see the Bulls play, lose, more. People want to see the Bulls play more winning rugby. Let me put it that. And Jake made mention of the fact that the Bulls don't concentrate on the games that they won. They concentrate on the games that they've lost. Now, having said that, Jake has a problem, or not, with us as journalists reporting on the Bulls' losses and, to quote unquote, losing 4 streaks in a row. Jake made mention of the fact that the work that and the reporting that journalists do not usually fit in with what they as management and the players want to hear and to see. And he made mention of the fact, sort of a sarcastic mention of the fact that Rugby 365, our friends, that they have said that they've had their numbers wrong and said that the Bulls had a losing streak of 5. So Jake's very sensitive about that, and one can understand that. Like he said, the Bulls remember the games that they've lost, not the games that they won. But again, and I reiterate this, once we start to ask questions about the games that they've lost, it seems that it's not falling well within the ambit of reception of the Bulls at the moment. Jake also made mention of the fact that there's a loss of psyche because a lot of senior players don't play for the Bulls anymore. He used R.G. Snyman and Pollard as an example. And let's be honest, unless those two come back to South Africa and start playing, at least for the franchises, preferably back to the Bulls, it makes sense that the Bulls won't have, and they won't be able to compete on a level where they should compete with international players. Like Jake said, it's an international team, and he used Cast as an example of one of the strong French teams, one of the teams in France's rugby, being a club team in red shirts, but actually an international team, and the way that they play do actually reflect that. So what Jake said, and this gives away a little bit about the attitude of the Bulls tomorrow. They want to finish well. They want to finish well also in the Champions Cup, but also to take that momentum further in the URC, and also to make inroads into the Challenge Cup by putting 22 points, at least 22 points on Stade Francais, and keep them scoreless. Now that's going to take some taking. Whether the Bulls are able to do that, I don't know, and please engage with us here. Jake has admitted that they haven't tested themselves on this matter, and I specifically asked him, is this last game that comes up in the Champions Cup, not a dead rubber? And he was quite vehemently replying on that and saying, no, it is not a dead rubber. There's no dead rubber game for any team that plays against the Bulls. So they want to be in the Challenge Cup and they want to be competitive. That is what they said, but they're not in the Champions Cup next year. So they have to settle for the Challenge Cup next year. You just get those wording right. The Investec Challenge Cup. So having said that, that's quite some taking. What Jake also said, what's important, and I think we should take notice from as far as us as supporters are concerned, that all coaches and CEOs of all the South African franchises have had a meeting what to do, with a question what to do to start to be competitive and to win in the Champions Cup. Well, taking it also with the Challenge Cup as well. Pick the best players, they've all agreed, pick the best players and do it like what the Springboks do. They can't win against teams with All Blacks and Fijians and other internationals such as Argentinians if they don't have the best players. Yes, it's a foregone conclusion. And we've heard Jake say that many times. We've heard other coaches say that many times again. And he reiterated that players remaining here, being the players that don't go play overseas, not in Europe or in Japan for that matter, won't be able to compete on an equal footing with the European counterparts. And Jake also touched on the fact that it is not only a money aspect. People still, he says people are still naive about some teams playing here, international players that are able to give it their best because of other motivations, not only as far as money is concerned. So I'll watch that space a little bit, and I want you to engage in that as well, because this was also when Jake 4 years ago, when he started at the Bulls, said that he wants the players to play for them or for him when they only have subscribed to the honors and the prestige to play for the Bulls. That makes a lot of sense, and I think that is also what, if this is where Jake wants to go, this is exactly what I personally want to see. So the money aspect was touched on, but Jake then refuted that by also saying that we were the double rugby world champions in 1995, 2007 without our players playing overseas. Yes, it makes sense, but hasn't rugby changed? Hasn't rugby started to evolve into a more profitable type of sport? And again, while I'm saying this, I remember also in the press conference, Jake made mention of the fact that rugby is not the real world. He used those words. Rugby is not the real world. Rugby is play and fun, and that you should be able to do that as part of play and fun. But on the other hand, you can't just have play and fun and not be a professional rugby player and not play in a good franchise with good money and remain in your country. Now, he used the example, like I said, the All Blacks, when the All Blacks did that, they won World Cups. And he again referred to the intellectual property to be, and I was immediately thinking about Willie Leroux. Willie is soon to leave the Bulls for that specific reason, to go and play is probably his last franchise rugby for a more profitable type of remuneration and salary. He also made mention of the fact that junior players should be developed, but not in these competitions. And a question was also asked about the Vodacom Cup, and we all remember the Vodacom Cup. And Jake was very accommodating, let me use that word, towards that fact being raised as the Vodacom Cup being the development of junior players. So the more we talk about this, and by this I mean the summation, and I can babble on and babble on and babble on what Jake thinks what has happened. Jake is obviously not happy. So are we, the supporters. So are we as journos, and we report on that. We we tell the rest of the people, we tell them that. And one of the videos that Mvia and me, when we made that video, we specifically said that we're not here to bash any coach, any team, not even starting off with Jake. We're here to revert back in open media, to tell a story. That's actually what we're doing with these videos. We tell a story. There's a story outside there. People being the supporters, they're not happy. They're not going to fill up Loftus. They're not going to do something that Jake and company wants unless it comes from, like Jake continuously said also, it's above his pay grade. So it means that SA Rugby has to come to the party. And if SA Rugby has to come to the party, SA Rugby has got to start talking with the 4 franchises, and Jake also included the Free State, who plays in the Challenge Cup. So next year it will be the Bulls joining the Free State in the Challenge Cup. And that's going to be interesting. And Jake also talked about the perception. The team to be competitive each week is difficult, if not impossible. That perception then stands around. Jake also classified it specifically. There's a desire. Does SA Rugby have the desire to bring back the RG's and the Pollards? And unless we get an answer on that, we're going around in circles and circles and circles, and we can talk until the cows come back home. It's not going to resolve the problems that we have. Jake also made mention of 3 very important points where successful international teams are at the moment. They've got best players, they rotate their squads, they create depth and create competition for the jersey. 4 very important points, and I do agree with that. And that was what Jake said when he started off 4 years ago. I can disclose, I can't unfortunately not name these players. There are at least 3 players that are coming back. It's embargoed at the moment, but we're looking forward to get them back at the Bulls. And those are the type of players that will create a sort of a competition for the jersey, but also bring back intellectual property. And that's what Jake said also. He doesn't want RG Snyman to share his knowledge, RG's knowledge, with guys in a foreign club, in a foreign country. He wants RG to come back and share it in South Africa, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. Jake also said it's a great compliment if we're right and we talk about the Bulls listing the fact that they've had a 4-streak loss at the moment, and that we expect better from the Bulls. He says that gives sort of publicity to the Bulls, for a lack of a better word. Now, I would say that any publicity is good publicity as far as marketing is concerned, and probably that's what Jake is hinging towards. That leaves us with. I'm still not convinced that I'm convinced that we've hit the nail on the head. I've heard too much of the same old that comes from Jake and from the Bulls. Unless there's something drastically going to happen with the junior players and the senior players, and to get players in 3 competitions, well, 2 if the Bulls continue to play either in the Champions or the Challenge Cup, URC and either one of the 2, to fly to and fro during competitions, because the segmentation of the games, of the tournaments, that is something that's catching out South Africa big time, because we don't have the international players that play. It's difficult for me to see a Pollard in a foreign club's shirt, well knowing that Pollard actually belongs in a Blue Bulls shirt and should play for the Bulls. So unless that is sorted out, and it seems it's not going to be sorted out on club level and franchise level, unless that is sorted out by SA Rugby, we're going nowhere slowly. And we will repeat this mantra over and over and over, and we'll have probably a good Bulls team playing in the Challenge Cup next year, giving it horns to play and to win the Challenge Cup like the Sharks has done, and to celebrate that, to at least, like Jake says, get more trophies in the trophy room. And that's on the one hand that He lets us know that that is what they're playing for, but on the other hand, he says they're counting the losses. So if in between you motivate yourself to win, good for them, whatever works for the Bulls. For us to report on that and to have a discussion on that in this channel or on this channel, it's quite a different thing. So let me shut up, shop and close. I can babble and babble and babble and go on. Who do I give the Bokdrol of the week? To whom do I give the Bokdrol of the week? Undoubtedly, if I make my summation, and I've thought about this in preparation for this video, it has to go back to SA Rugby. Unless SA Rugby does something constructive and urgently to get international players, Springbok players that belong to a franchise, to come and play for that franchise in South Africa, we're going nowhere slowly, and we will repeat. It's like having a bad tooth, and you keep on postponing, go to the dentist, and you're not going to attend that, and you just put some muti on that root and on the problem. It's not solving the problem. It's the root should be sorted out. That's my Bokdrol of the week. The Golden Horns of the week. Let's give it to the Bulls. At least they're trying. At least they're not capitulating. They might have different reasons for playing a good game this weekend on Saturday, but if they play two good teams or two good games in the Champions Cup at home, they were in the counting for the quarterfinals. They would have made the top 4 and go through to the top 16 teams. But that is if, and if doesn't work here. So the Golden Horns goes to the Bulls, more than one, to the Bulls management, to the Bulls players. And may I say with that, I confirm that myself and I really support the Bulls. I want them to play well tomorrow. I want them to put up a big score against Stade Francais. Not only to sort of justify themselves and get a sort of a tick the winning box. Not only for that, but also for winning, because we've heard it plenty times. Winning creates winning. Losing creates a mantra of losing. So that's where I am. Saru, you get the Bokdrol of the week. The Bulls get the Golden Horns. Thanks for watching. Remember, we on this channel now on a frequent basis. The rugby has started again. Go and hit that subscribe button. Become a member. And we'll see you on the other side of this. All the best.
This is the Bulkraal podcast with Simon Riekert, only on Megafoon Rugby.